If your body is working the way it's meant to, it shouldn't take 6 months to get pregnant. Our body works as a whole. Our digestive system is not separate from our reproductive system. Our nervous system, our lung health, our heart health, all of it is connected to our reproductive health. The beautiful thing about Chinese medicine is we understand the human body as like this big web, and we see why symptoms are connected to certain things. When we are trying to get pregnant, we're trying to welcome another soul and a spirit into our life, into our family, into our body. So we need to create that environment that is welcoming. So today I want to answer a question a woman sent to me in my DMs recently. And the question is, I've been trying to get pregnant for 6 months now. All my lab tests are coming back normal. What should I do? Right? And this is a question I get a lot, and this is a lot of the patients I see in my office. So let's talk about it. First, let's just acknowledge that it's a good thing that your lab tests are coming back and showing that nothing is wrong. Now, I know it can be hard when we feel like something's off in our body and things aren't working out the way we want them to want to have that validation of a blood test saying something's wrong, right? It sometimes feels easier if we know the why, and it's a tangible why, like our progesterone is low or our estrogen is low. We feel more control when we know what the actual cause is, right? But at the end of the day, the fact that your lab tests are coming back clean, coming back normal, showing no red flags is really a sign that you're a step ahead of the game, right? You're a step closer to the finish line. Because when something is off in your lab test, that shows something is usually dramatically off. Whereas when your tests are coming back normal, there could be something off in your hormones, right? Hormone tests aren't that sensitive, and they come back with a wide range, right? So when you see it usually shows you on your lab test, but you could also Google it, a range of what's quote unquote normal. It's a wide range. And what's normal for your body might not be normal for someone else's body. And what's normal for your body could still be within that range. And what's not normal for your body could still be within that range that lab tests consider quote unquote normal. So if you've been actively trying to get pregnant for 6 months and it's not working out and your lab tests are normal, don't wait to seek support, right? Get help. If your body is working the way it's meant to, it shouldn't take 6 months to get pregnant. The fact that you're not able to get pregnant quickly is a sign that there's something out of balance in your body. And so what you need to discover is, what is the root cause? What is out of balance? What is throwing you off? So this is what I do with my patients in my practice, and I'm going to take you through my steps so you can start to do it at home, right? So the first thing you need to do is look at your body, your mind, and your soul as a whole. So frequently when I get patients who are having trouble getting pregnant, but nothing is off in their hormone test and their lab test, it's because there's another system in their body that is slightly off, that is out of balance, that's throwing their fertility off. Because our body works as a whole, right? Our digestive system is not separate from our reproductive system. Our nervous system is not separate from our reproductive system, right? Our lung health, our heart health, all of it is connected. Our mental health, all of it is connected to our reproductive health. So you first want to take a look at what's going on in your body, right? And to give you some examples of patients that I've seen recently that have nothing going on in their quote unquote reproductive health, but other things in their body. So things like having chronic constipation most of their life, right? That is something else that is going wrong in their body that is affecting their reproductive system. Having eczema, having acid reflux for almost 10 years, suffering from anxiety for most of their life, having constant bloating. And then there's the more obvious things like having things wrong with your actual cycle, such as PMS, cramps, short cycles, long cycles, things like that. All of these and much more, any sign or symptom that your body is showing you that something is out of balance. And anything that's uncomfortable to your body essentially is a sign or symptom. That could also be chronic pain. And sometimes the connection of your secondary symptoms might be obvious to the ones in your reproductive system. For example, if you're having any digestive issues, that typically is a sign that your body is having trouble absorbing and assimilating the nutrients in the food that you're eating, right? And if your body isn't able to effectively absorb and assimilate the nutrients from the food that you're eating, your body isn't able to take that food, that energy, that fuel that you're giving it every day to then create the resources that your body needs, such as blood and yin and qi and hormones, to hold a healthy pregnancy. That is sometimes more obvious. But then there's other things in our life that are a little less obvious, like why your eczema, right, is causing your infertility. Well, that also goes back to gut health, but also why your anxiety is causing infertility, why your chronic knee pain is causing infertility, right? And those are the things that I help connect and discover with my patients, because the beautiful thing about Chinese medicine is we understand the human body as like this big web, and we see why symptoms are connected to certain things. And when you're able to see your body and your system as a whole, everything makes so much more sense than when you're just looking at one piece, when you're just looking at your fertility or just your reproductive health. So then when we think about your secondary symptoms, what else is going on in your body, in your life, in your mind, your physical and emotional health, right? Then we want to go back to, where did that start? You want to uncover, where did that first begin? And then what was going on in your life around that time? You know, in Chinese medicine, in the Suan, in the first chapter, and the Suan is one of the main classical Chinese medicine texts, it says, all illnesses start in the mind, right? So let's say you have chronic IBS. When did that chronic IBS start? And what was going on in your life around that time? Maybe you just started college and you were under a lot of pressure and really stressed out, right? Maybe that's the reason. Maybe that's what's going on at that time of your life. Or maybe you've just always had chronic IBS, right? Maybe it's something you dealt with since you were a baby. Your parents talk about how you were always constipated or always blowing out your diaper. I don't know. It can be anything. Think about the environment you grew up in. Think about your parents' attitudes, your parents' beliefs, your parents' thoughts, right? And when we go back and think about where these symptoms started and when they started, we want to tie that back to a belief and a thought. What were you thinking at that time, right? So if you were in college and you were really stressed out about having to do well, why? What was your thought at the time? Was it that if I don't do well, I'm a failure? Or if I don't do well, I'm actually going to fail and drop out of college? Or is it, if I don't do well, I'm not going to succeed? If I don't do well, my parents aren't going to love me? You know, it can be many things. Or if it's something that started as a child your whole life, what kind of energy do your parents have? Are your parents nervous people? Are your parents controlling people? Do your parents struggle with boundaries, or your caregivers? When I say parents, I mean the people who are raising you, the people around you, the environment that you grew up in. Were your parents always bringing you down, always commenting on how you look? Or maybe you were raised with a mother who was constantly dieting and struggling with her appearance. Think about your environment and what things might have energetically been passed on to you. And the crazy thing about these negative thoughts and beliefs that are creating the illness in our body is a lot of times they're not even ours. They're something that have been energetically transposed to us or passed down to us through epigenetics, right? If we grew up with a grandparent that really struggled, maybe they were immigrants and they constantly had to work really hard, those thoughts and beliefs and those feelings can be passed down to us in our genes, in our DNA. So once you discover the secondary symptoms, thoughts and beliefs attached to that, then you want to undo it all, right? So you want to rewire that actual belief. So if your belief is, if I'm not achieving, I'm going to fail, right? If I'm not achieving, then I'm worthless. Let's go with that one. If I'm not constantly doing something, if I'm not constantly achieving, then I'm worthless and no one will love me. Which sounds harsh when I say it, but a lot of people do intrinsically have this belief. And it's not something that, you're constantly saying in your head, like, I'm not lovable if I don't achieve. But it's something we show in our actions by always needing to do better, always needing to work harder, not allowing ourselves to rest, feeling uncomfortable resting, right? That feeling of, if I'm not doing something, like I just don't know what to do with myself. That goes back to an intrinsic belief that if I'm not doing something, I'm not worthy. And that worthiness can go back to different things of being worthy of being loved or just being worthy to be alive. But my point is that these beliefs might not be obvious to us. They show up in our actions, but they might not be at the front of our mind all the time. So once you figure out that belief, you want to rewire it. So what's the opposite if I'm not doing, I'm not worthy? Well, the opposite could be resting is the most productive thing for me. Or it could be that, like, you know what, I am worthy. I was born into this world perfect, and I am perfect just as I am, no matter what I do, say, believe, or achieve. Those are some things that would rewire that belief. And here's the thing. You can say that rewired belief, that mantra over and over all day, but unless you feel it in your physical body, it's not going to make a difference. which is why what we then do in my practice is we take that belief and we rewire it energetically. And I do this using the energy of the Chinese medicine, the acupuncture channels. So to remove that energy, that trauma that's in your body, those emotions out of your body so that you can accept this feeling of feeling good, so that you can actually accept this rewired belief in your physical body and in your mind, right? A lot of the times if we have a negative belief and we try to say the opposite, it just doesn't feel good in our body. It actually feels like we're constricting because we don't believe it. You can't force yourself to believe something. And then once you have the emotional, mental, spiritual side, and then when you feel strong about the mental and emotional aspect of where you're coming from, you want to take a look at your life holistically. So examining every aspect of your life, from your diet, everything you eat and drink, the quality of the food, the energy of the food, the balance of the food and flavors on your plate. You want to take a look at your lifestyle, right? It's really important to understand that when we are trying to get pregnant, when we are trying to have a baby, it takes a lot of energy. It takes a lot of nourishment. We are literally growing another human being inside of us, right? That takes a lot of energy. And I think that's a fact that's not talked about enough in Western medicine or at all, right? Is this fact that like, we're not then just sustaining ourselves, we're sustaining another human being. And a lot of us come from a place of lack and a place of restriction. So you don't want to have a restrictive diet. You don't want to be dieting. You need to be making sure you're eating 3 meals a day and that those meals are balanced and they're giving you the nutrients that you need. There's also foods that will deplete our energy. So we want to make sure we're not adding those foods that deplete our energy, such as coffee, just to give an example. And the same way we look at food, we want to look at our lifestyle. We really need to be balancing our yin and yang energy. And when I say balancing, at this point, I mean really focusing on your yin energy. So if you're not familiar with yin and yang, I'm sure you've seen that circle symbol with the little squiggly line in the middle. Yin and yang is a balance that is meant to be held in nature and in our bodies. And we see it in nature through winter and summer, right? Winter is yin and summer is yang. It's that heat and cold balanced energy. Within our bodies, we're meant to have the same. So yin is rest, it's restoration, it is meditation, it's calmness. Yang is everything else. So yang is exercise, it's working, it's social events, it's walking from places to places. Yang is anything that takes energy to do. And if you think about your life, are you balancing the yang, the activity, with the yin? And I can tell you most of us are not. It is challenging. It is very hard in the real world, especially in a real world that really triumphs that masculine yang energy. Yang is also stress hormones, right? So working from a place of stress, exercising from a place of stress, those are all going to deplete your yang energy. And we need to balance that with enough yin energy. And yin is sex hormones. So we want to build that yin energy through rest, through meditation, through slowing our body and calming our mind. Yin, I'll say it again, yin is sex hormones. So we really need to balance that yin to grow that yin energy. And just imagine when we use our yang energy, because we are a balance of these two aspects, yin and yang, when we use our yang energy, we deplete our yin energy, right? Because we need that yin, we need that rest to create activity. And the more activity we do, the more we're depleting our yin, our rest, our kind of like storage pack of our battery. And then lastly, right, after you've dived into the mental, emotional mindset aspect of what's going on in your life, you've looked at secondary symptoms, you've reviewed your diet, your lifestyle, we need to welcome the third party into this conversation, which is the spirit and the soul of the baby that you want to welcome into your world, into your life, and into your family, right? And some important questions to ask yourself is, do I have space in my life for a child? Do I have space in my life for pregnancy? And to give you my personal example, when I was first trying to get pregnant with my first son, I was in probably my second year of a 3-year grad school program when I went off birth control and wanted to get pregnant. Now, in retrospect, at the time, I was like, you know what, I can do it. Like, this is when I want to get pregnant, whatever. I'm not going to like let it ruin my life, right? In retrospect, getting pregnant while I was still in my second year of school would have been really hard. Like, to start off, I did have a hard first trimester and second trimester with my child. I was very nauseous. I was tired. But even if you don't have that, there is a sense of fatigue when you're getting pregnant, when you're pregnant, right? Again, you're growing another human. So it's natural to be a little bit tired, to not feel your best. And to be pregnant at that time would have been horrible. I also had to take my board exams, which at the time we're able to take them in the beginning of our 3rd year. And studying for those board exams while being pregnant would have been near impossible for me. And that really would have thrown back my timeline of graduating, of passing my boards, of becoming an acupuncturist. So in reality, what happened was I took those board exams early my 3rd year. I passed them, and then I got pregnant a couple weeks later. So I'm telling you this to say, just really examine your life. Do you have space for a child in your life? Do you have space for pregnancy? And I see this a lot in my practice, women coming to me really wanting to get pregnant, but they work 12-hour days and they don't really know how they're going to cut that back, right? We can't just assume that things are going to work out for us. We need to figure it out. And when I say this, it comes down to the fact that when we are trying to get pregnant, we're trying to welcome another soul and a spirit into our life, into our family, into our body. So we need to create that environment that is welcoming, right? What kind of home do you want to welcome someone into? What kind of home do you think someone would be attracted to? And it's usually not a home that has a lot of stress, that has no space or time to care for a baby, right? Nobody wants to come into that environment. And in the same respect, it's really important to focus on happiness and joy. So I say this for 2 reasons. One is we track the energy we put out there in the world, right? And if we want that energy of finding a positive pregnancy test, of feeling good, of feeling excited, we need to cultivate that energy right now. And the easiest way to do that is to focus on things that bring you joy, doing those little things that bring you joy. And if when you think about that, you come up blank, just think about what you really loved to do as a child. For me, it was dancing. It was dancing ballet. So when I was trying to get pregnant, I started dancing ballet, even though I didn't have much time in my schedule for it. I didn't have a lot of energy, right? I was, dealing with health issues and I was tired, but I did it. And when I did it, it brought me so much joy. And again, I got pregnant very shortly after I started doing that. So finding joy in your life, it helps attract joy back. And again, number 2 is it helps to create that environment that you want to welcome another soul into, right? Like just imagine that baby that you want in the sky, in the universe, like watching down, looking around all of these people. They want to go to the one that's happy, to the one that feels good, right? You want to create that environment internally and externally that would be so welcoming to a new soul into your life and into your family. A one of love, an environment of love, an environment of joy, an environment of feeling good. So that's a long-winded answer of what to do if you've been trying to get pregnant for 6 months and nothing's happening. And ultimately, if that's the case for you, I would seek support. Do not wait, right? This is hard to do alone. When I was trying to get pregnant, I did not do this alone. I had support, which is why I now offer support for other women. And it's also why I have such a high success rate when it comes to treating fertility, infertility, whatever you want to call it, when it comes to helping women getting pregnant. It's because I am looking at the person and the system as a whole. I'm looking at the mind, the body, and the soul, and all of those need to be taken into account when we're talking about fertility. So if you're interested in learning more about working with me, I have a 3-month program that I've come up with that is wildly effective called Femergy, where I take you through all these steps that I discussed here today and help set up your body in a good place to get pregnant naturally and easily. So if you want to learn more about that, the information is always in my show notes. You can always DM me, and please reach out with any additional questions that I can answer on here.